As most of you already know, Art the Clown has slowly become the most iconic slasher villain that we have gotten in a very long time, and no matter how many times I have covered him on this channel, there is one thing that I have never done before, and that is take a deep and extensive dive into each one of his movies. I've talked about who Art the Clown is, and I've obviously covered some news on the upcoming Terrifier 3, but I've never actually sat down and broken down each of these movies to explain to you guys what's going on. So what better time to do that than today in this brand new video. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Haydxn, and today we are taking a dive into every Art the Clown movie that we have gotten so far. There's 3 movies that we're going to cover in this video. We're going to talk about All Hallows Eve, and then we're going to move to Terrifier, and then Terrifier 2. Obviously, we're not going to move on to Terrifier 3 because the movie has not released yet. So if you just want to learn a little bit more about Art the Clown and all of these movies that he has been featured in, then grab a snack, grab a drink, sit tight, and let's get into it. So when we're talking about Art the Clown movies, the first movie we have to discuss is All Hallows Eve. All Hallows Eve was released in 2013, and it was written, produced, and directed by Damien Leone. Damien Leone is the producer of every Terrifier film going forward, so just keep that in mind. This movie is a horror anthology film, and if you're not sure what that means, it means that it's basically just a bunch of short movies and short films in a row in a little compilation crammed into one movie. This is something that is very common with found footage movies, and while this isn't a found footage movie per se, it is based off of a tape that was found that kids got while they were trick-or-treating. All of these short films in this movie starred one person, and that is Art the Clown. Now, while this isn't the first time we would ever see Art the Clown because he was a part of some short films made by Damien Leone before this, those short films were put into this movie, so this was basically everyone's first time actually getting to see Art the Clown in a feature film. The 2 short films that were already previously made is the 2008 Ninth Circle and the 2011 Terrifier. And I'm not talking about the actual movie Terrifier. There was a short film named Terrifier before this. Like I was saying, this movie follows a babysitter and 2 children who just went trick-or-treating, and while they come home to look in their bag, they find this unmarked tape. And the babysitter watches the tape and finds out that it is all these creepy short films featuring Art the Clown. And apparently after you watch this tape, then Art the Clown himself can kind of come through the TV and join you in real life, and that is exactly what he did here. This movie didn't do too much for people, and it especially didn't do too much for me, considering I'm not really a big found footage guy. I've never kind of liked the style of those movies, and not to mention, this isn't the same actor who plays Art the Clown nowadays. This guy was actually Mike Gianelli, who is a close friend to Damien Leone, and he played Art the Clown because Damien just needed someone to fill the role. Obviously now we have David Howard Thornton, who does an incredible job as Art the Clown, so it all paid off in the end. This movie ended up getting mixed reviews, but it was good enough where Damien Leone thought that he should have his hand at his first ever feature film showcasing just Art the Clown. So that is exactly what he did in 2016 with the release of the very first ever Terrifier. Producer Damien Leone basically just wanted to use this movie to see if Art the Clown was as big as he thought he could be, and he really just wanted to showcase his practical effects, which is exactly what he did in a lot of scenes in this movie. When I'm talking about that, I'm talking about the hacksaw scene, and I cannot show you that on YouTube, but if you are curious, then go and watch this movie. Still one of the craziest things I have ever seen in a horror movie, hands down. Damien Leone ended up making this with a $35,000 budget, and it ended up making over $400,000 in box office, so it definitely paid off for him, and that's when they obviously announced the Terrifier 2, but we're not there yet. This movie shows us a host in the very beginning doing an interview on a girl named Victoria, and we later find out that this lady with a messed up face is a lady that Art the Clown ate the face off of. We mainly follow Tara and Dawn, who are 2 best friends just trying to enjoy their Halloween night before they are bombarded by Art the Clown and his crazy antics. This movie really didn't do too much when it comes to the actual story aspect. Like I said, Damien Leone just wanted to showcase his special effects, and he did that exactly. There wasn't too much story going on, so a lot of this movie didn't really stick with people, but the main thing that stuck was Art the Clown, and people wanted more and more. It was in this movie when we found out just how brutal Art the Clown can be, which takes a whole nother step up in Terrifier 2, and it looks like it's gonna take another step up in Terrifier 3. This movie came out in 2016, but it wasn't until 2019 when it was announced that we would be getting a sequel to Terrifier. Honestly, I think this is because when the Terrifier movie first came out, it wasn't as popular as it got a couple of years later. I remember watching this movie on Netflix at some point. I don't even remember what year that was, but it was a very long time ago. And honestly, I kind of forgot about Terrifier. I really liked the character of Art the Clown, but I wouldn't really remember the movie until I saw the poster for Terrifier on another streaming site. But I watched it a long time ago whenever it was on Netflix. So I'm sure a lot of people probably did the same thing and kind of just forgot about it. But obviously, curiosity had to have peaked around the 2019 point, because that's when Damien Leone announced that they were going to be working on Terrifier 2. We ultimately ended up getting Terrifier 2 in October of 2022, and this was definitely the biggest Terrifier movie that we have gotten to date. Not only was the budget for this movie increased by hundreds of thousands of dollars, but the fan base for the Terrifier movies definitely grew a lot since the first Terrifier, so a lot was on the plate to deal with. Damien Leone actually launched a donation goal of $50,000 to help produce this movie, and ended up making $250,000 in the end. So a lot of that went to the crazy scenes and kills and practical effects that we ended up seeing in Terrifier 2. This movie was also the first time we had gotten new main characters that we can actually get some backstory for, because in the first Terrifier there really wasn't any story. Like I said, it was basically just focused on Art the Clown and the special effects that Damien Leone could pull off, but now we had actual characters and stories to get behind, so it just made the movie feel a lot more like a movie. We got our new final girl, Sienna Shaw, as well as her brother Jonathan, and these will be our main protagonists going forward. We end up finding out that their father can actually see Art the Clown somehow in his dreams. They don't really explain all of that in this movie, but I'm assuming we'll find out a lot more detail on that in Terrifier 3. We're also introduced to another character named the Little Pale Girl, and they also don't explain who this is either, but they kind of make it seem like it was a girl who was killed by Art the Clown, and now she is a demon just assisting him in his murders. And then we also see Vicky again, but this time she is actually stuck in a mental institution, and she ends up giving birth to Art's head after Sienna kills Art at the end of the movie. Really weird, I understand. This is yet another thing that hasn't been explained yet. But what we do know at this point is that Sienna and Jonathan are going to be our main characters. Vicky has somehow been possessed by Art, and she is now evil and assisting him. And we also have this little pale girl somewhere around the world. They don't really explain where she goes after 2. But something I thought was pretty interesting about this as I'm reading is that Damien Leone apparently already had the idea for Sienna in the year 2008. He always wanted this protagonist, this angel type hero, fighting this demon named Art the Clown, and he ended up actually bringing it to life with this 2022 movie. It's just really cool to me that an idea from almost 20 years ago can be brought back and be as successful as it was. And obviously we had a crazy scene in this movie as well. The first Terrifier had the hacksaw scene. This movie had the bedroom scene, which yet again I cannot show you here on the channel, but if you are really curious, then just go and watch Terrifier 2 and look for the bedroom scene. I don't suggest it if you have a light stomach or if you're squeamish. It's very bad. Other than the hacksaw scene, this is the most disturbing thing I've ever seen in a horror movie. But something that's even more crazy than that is that Terrifier 2 had a budget of $250,000, and they ended up making in the box office $15.7 million. That is an astronomical amount of money for an independent film that people didn't even expect to get as popular as it did. This definitely translates over to the budget for Terrifier 3, because they have a $2 million budget, so we can definitely expect some insane effects, some insane kill scenes, everything about it. It's going to be crazy. And like I also said about Terrifier 3, this movie will definitely be explaining some more backstory on not only Art the Clown, but our main protagonists, Sienna and Jonathan, as well as their father. We will probably get more details on the little pale girl and Victoria, and I think that it's all going to come full circle, and we are going to end up wrapping back around to the short films that Damien Leone made, especially The Ninth Circle. And the reason I say that is because of the weird devil guy that we see forging weapons in this weird flashback from Sienna. I'm assuming this has something to do with the Ninth Circle of Hell, and if this all circles around and just goes back to the origin origins, then All Hallows Eve could eventually be canon in the Terrifier universe. But that is something that we will not know until October 11th, which is just under a month away. That just about wraps up everything about the Terrifier movies that we know so far, starting from All Hallows Eve all the way to Terrifier 2. If you guys enjoyed this video, then please be sure to let me know in the comments down below, and if you're gonna do that, then hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. And you can subscribe to the channel if you're not gonna click that notification bell as well, because it is literally right there next to that subscribe button. It's free, it takes a few seconds, it's harmless. You can do that. I really appreciate you sticking around to the end of this video. If you did stick around to the end of this video, my name is Haydxn. It was a pleasure having you here on the channel, and I can always see you guys in the next video. Peace!